And so is Philip. Okay. The way we've got this set up today is I've got a screen share going, so we'll be able to you'll be able to see the slides as I go through them, and I will go to the chat room. I cannot, unfortunately, do both the chat and the screen share at the same time. But Peter is watching for people coming in, so or having any questions. I recommend that you give me questions anytime that you would like to add questions. Please feel free to do that. Okay. We're going to go ahead and start with I think we start with what we're going to talk about today are soft skills, and in those soft skills is we're going to talk about time ethics and time management. It's a big deal. Time ethics and time management are a big thing when you're dealing with people that are your employers, okay? We're going to also speak about work values and ethics in your work, different kinds of ethics that you should have, and ethics being the behavior that you work under. And then stress management. Stress management is something that all of us really experience on a pretty regular basis, actually. And it's something that really needs to be managed, because it can become a very difficult thing if you don't manage your stress level. And I've got some tips that are going to help you with stress management. We want to make sure that you're not getting yourself stressed out completely and hating your job because it's so stress related, or stressful, I should say. And then we're going to talk about negotiating your work schedule. And there's a good way to negotiate your work schedule right from the get-go. You want to let people know, if you're, say you're applying for a job and you have got a vacation that you have had planned for a long time, and you want to take that vacation and it's going to come in 2 or 3 weeks after you start your job, negotiate right from the beginning that you do have this trip planned, and that you will plan on that you would like to be able to take the trip. And last but not least is we're going to talk about conflict resolution and what you do with conflicts when you have a conflict with not only your boss, but someone else in the company or a fellow employee of some sort. You want to be able to resolute that problem so you're both a win-win situation. That's an important thing to do. Now, time ethics. Time, you see, if you're supposed to be there at 8 o'clock in the morning, always be 5 minutes early. If you're going for a job interview or something along that line, make sure you're 5 minutes early. It's being on time. For most business people say that being on time is being 5 minutes early. So make sure that you get there. Now, if say you're going on a job interview and you have not been to a particular place, the idea to go ahead and get there in the manner in which you're going to do it. If you're doing public transportation, take public transportation to wherever that job is going to be, so you know how long it's going to take you to get there. And you don't want to get lost on the day of the interview and end up arriving really, really late. That's not a good way to start off. Okay? When you are, and that's a good thing also, if you're always 5 or 10 minutes late to work, people get irritated with that. If you are supposed to be there at 8 o'clock, that means you're there at 8 o'clock and you are ready to work at 8 o'clock. Not come in at 8 o'clock and then spend the next 20 minutes getting yourself ready to go into work. Okay? You don't want to leave work early. Even if you're not using a time card, if somebody says that you're working from 8 to 5, that means that you're working from 8 till 5 o'clock, not 5 of 5, not 10 of 5. Unless it has been cleared with someone, you don't want to leave early. It really leaves a very bad impression. Another really important thing to do is to stay off your mobile device and social media during working hours. When you have your break, go ahead and take your break and use your mobile device at that point in time. Do not use it during the day. So tell people, please don't text me, please don't call me unless you have an emergency. If you have an emergency, the best thing to do, if you know that you've got a problem, say that your husband or wife or mother or father or somebody is ill at home, you might want to tell your boss when you come in, so-and-so is ill and I'm leaving my phone on and I may have to take a call. Okay? Another thing that people tend to do, and it's not a good thing to do, is waste time in the restroom. You know, the people that are always in the restroom, that every time you turn around, they're in the restroom. And you know that is not a good thing. I mean, it's not a good thing health-wise, number one, but number two, it doesn't look good for your boss if you're always in the restroom every time something comes up. I like to prepare a list of things to do. Even though my boss is going to tell me what I have to do, I like to know what's going to be coming up the next day. So I like to make a list the day before of things that I have to do for that next day and check things off when they're done. It's really satisfying to go through a list and check things off. I always want to make sure that you figure out what's urgent and what is not. So if you know that every day, wherever you're working, the call needs to be made at 9 o'clock in the morning because you're going to get a rush of people at 9:30, then make sure that happens. Don't do something else that's on your list that it doesn't when it gets done. I always do the boring tasks first. The things that I don't like I, for instance, don't enjoy doing bookkeeping and billing and paying bills and things like that. I don't enjoy that. So what I do is I do that first thing in the morning and get it over with. And I feel much better. I don't have that nagging in the back of my head over here, wondering when I'm going to get it done. And because I want to just have it done and have it over with. Do it while you're fresh, because if it's if it's a chore to do it when you're feeling really fresh, then imagine what it's going to be like when you're tired. I like to take the to-do list, and at the end of the day, start my to-do list for the next day with the I did not get done the first day. So put that onto your planning list, your to-do list first. And once again, though, know what is urgent and what is not. I like to also keep a calendar. It's very important for me to keep a calendar because I never know, for instance, when I'm teaching or when I'm not teaching, and I need to have it written out for me on a list of the days that I am teaching. So that's an important thing to do. Let people know, your other coworkers know what your work schedule is. So for instance, if the manager comes to you at 4:30 and says to you that they have a job that they want you to do that's going to take an hour and a half to do it, and you know you're supposed to get off at 5 o'clock, you might say that the manager boss told you not to work past 5 o'clock. And she or he, whatever the case may be, is the manager, can override that, but at least they know then that you are going into overtime. And so you've advised people of that. Start your to-do list every day with items, as I told you, that you did not get finished the day before. Work values and ethics. Very important right off the bat. I'm going to see if there's any questions here. Let's see. Go down here. No. I don't see any questions. Anyone have any questions that wants to chime in? Very important that you are always truthful. Now I know, and I have been told that I say on a regular basis that this is very important. And the reason I do say that is because I like to consider things that I'm teaching or talking to you about, that they are really super important. And being truthful is one of the most important things you can do. The one time that you tell a lie, that's when you're going to have problems. If you get caught, they'll never ever believe in you again. And that's a bad thing. Think, act, and work like management. In other words, always work above your pay scale. Whatever, say, working for $15 an hour. If you're working for $15 an hour, that's great. But you don't want to work like you're at $15 an hour. Act like you're at $20 an hour. And do your work according to that. And the reason you want to do that is because that's how you're going to get a raise. That's how.
Hi, John.
Yes.
Hi, this is Peter. So sorry, we've been having some issues with your connection. It kind of cuts off, comes and goes as we are doing the webinar. So I'm not sure if you could double check your connection.
I'll double check it. I've got everything plugged in correctly. How's that? Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah, we could hear you fine, but at times it just kind of sounds like staticky.
I don't
So
know
we could
what
hear you, but not really hear you.
it is.
Like just
Oh,
like
I'm
now.
sorry about that. You couldn't hear me just now?
Yeah, we could hear you, but at times it's just the connection kind of comes and goes, so then we miss like bits and pieces of what you're talking about.
I'm gonna try and I'm gonna try to do just the microphone from the computer. So hang on just 1 second, and we'll see if you
Thank you.
are you able to hear me now?
I think that sounds a little better, but I guess someone on the chat just said that Zoom has been having issues today, so that might be part of it.
Okay, does it seem to be better? Because if
I
it
think it
is,
sounds a little better.
okay, what I'm doing is I'm working off now just the regular computer one rather than the microphone that I have set up.
Yes, this is much better, John. Thank you.
Okay, good. Do you have any questions as of yet, Peter?
No, no question, just a connection. Just a connection.
Just a question with the connect. Okay, you got it. So I want to tell you a story about a guy. This takes a little bit of a while to tell the story, but it's a true story and it's a very important story. And it's about a guy by the name of Brian. And Brian, this is many years ago. I was working, getting ready for World Cup. I was working on World Cup soccer in Paris, France. And I was spending a lot of time in Paris and working all over the country and doing my job, what I was supposed to be doing. And I was very, very, very busy. And I got a phone call from this young man, and he said, "Hi, my name is Brian Chan, and I have just graduated from UCSB with a bachelor's in business. And during the time that I've been in school, I decided that what I would like to do is go into the special events industry. And so I did research on the special event industry and looked for different companies around Santa Barbara and Los Angeles and all over Southern California and Northern California, because I live in Northern California, he said. And he said I could work up there. And lo and behold, I found your company, and your company is the company that I would like to come to work for. And I was so busy at the time, I thought, I don't have the time to be training someone new. I just don't have the time. And I said, well, Brian, thank you very much, but we are not hiring at this time. And he said, oh, I'm disappointed to hear that. And I said, no, we are very, very busy, and I just don't have the time to hire someone to train someone. And he said, would you be willing to spend a half hour with me talking to me about the special events industry? And I said, no, I'd be more than happy to do that. But I can't do that now. I'm leaving town for a week, and I won't be back. I won't be back for a week. And he said, well, let's see, that puts you back around May the 7th. And I said, that's right. And he said, why don't I give you a day to settle back in, and I will give you a call on May the 8th. And I'll call you at 10 o'clock in the morning, and we'll see if we can set up an appointment that I can come in and you can just tell me about the business. And I said, that sounds fine, Brian. And I hung up the phone thinking, I'll never hear from this young man again. and that's just fine with me. So anyway, at 10 o'clock on May the 8th, or whatever day it was, he called me and he said, "Hi, this is Brian Chan, and I told you that I would call you at 10 o'clock." And he called me on the dot at 10 o'clock. And he said, "And I wondered if you had the time to meet with me." I said, "Brian, I'm sorry, but actually I'm leaving town again and I'm going to be in Europe. So I'll be gone for 2 weeks and I won't have any way of talking to anyone." And so he said, "Okay, I understand." He said, "Would you be willing to sit down with me when you come back?" And I said, "Yes, I would." And so he said, now that I've talked to you in the morning, I see that you're very, very busy in the morning. And so why don't I call you at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I will call you on June the 5th. And that gives me 2 days to settle back in. And I said, "That sounds perfect, Brian." Thinking, once again, he's never going to call me back. Well, what he does is hang up the phone. June the 5th comes, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the phone rings. "Hi, this is Brian Chan." And I think, oh no, I can't shake this guy. He's a nice guy and all that, but I just don't have the time. And I don't have the time for other people to be training him. We are so incredibly busy. And so he said, "I wonder if I could come in and see you." And I said, "Brian, today's not a good day, but I'll tell you what, give me 1 more week and I will see you." He said, "Great. I will call you on June the 12th. And that'll give us a week out, and I hope that you'll be able to see me then." And he called me at 10 o'clock in the morning on June the 12th, and he said, "Mr. Daly, do you have time?" And I thought, oh, I'm never going to get rid of this guy. I might just as well meet with him. So I met with him, and I told him all about the events industry, not all about it, but a lot about it. And I said, "I'm not hiring because, quite honestly, I don't have the time to be training someone. And if I'm sorry, but here are a bunch of different people to call." And he took copious notes and wrote down all the places that I told him to write down, names of places to go. And he did a very, very good job with that. And he got all done. I got all done talking to him. And he said, "Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you giving me the information. However, I know these companies and they don't hold a candle to your company. And I really want to come to work for your company. I will come to work for your company for free if you will just let me come in and learn from you, because I understand you're the best there is in the business." I said, "Well, thank you for the compliment. I appreciate it, but I'm going to have to think about that." And so he said, "Okay, I'll give you a call tomorrow morning." Well, we all know that he was going to call me tomorrow morning. And so he called the next morning, and I kept thinking, what am I going to do to get rid of him? And because I don't want to hire him, but he's so smart and he's so together and he's so honest and has everything going for him. I say to him, "Brian, I'm sorry, I cannot take you on for free because of insurance purposes, but I will hire you for minimum wage." And at that time, minimum wage was around $9 an hour. And I thought, he'll never go for that. Never go for it because he's too smart. He said, great, when can I start? I can be there within the hour. And I said, Brian, calm down. Why don't you start on Monday and give me some time to get ready for you? So he said, very good, sir. I'll be there at 10 o'clock because that's when I opened. I'll be there at 10 o'clock in the morning on Monday. Well, Brian started working, and when he came in, I wrote him a list of things on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, 2 columns, a list of things that had to be done. And I figured when giving him this list, I'd be able to keep him out of my hair and I wouldn't have to bother with him for a week. And in a week, I'd be leaving. And because of the fact that I'd be leaving, my assistant, who had been with me for 3.5 years, would have to be the one that would train him. So I figured that's going to take care of this. So Brian went to work, put together all of the, worked all day. I never saw him leave his desk at all, not even to go to the restroom. He never went out to lunch. He just worked. And the next morning, I walked into the office, and there on my desk, lined up in perfect rows, all the way across my desk, was every single thing that was on the list. All done to perfection. And I said, Brian, how did you do this? And he said, well, sir, actually, I worked all night because I figured that if you thought it was important enough to go on to a list, it was important enough to be done right away. And I just was blown away. Well, I said, well, thank you very much. He said, but don't worry, I'm not charging you for those hours. I know that you said that our hours are from 10 o'clock in the morning till 7, and that's what I'm billing you for. I'm not billing you other hours. It turned out that Brian got 2 raises before he ever got his first paycheck because he was so incredible and he worked so hard. And I was blown away by him. It turned out 6 weeks later, my assistant, whom I said was with me for 3.5 years, she came to me and she said, this guy makes me look terrible. And he knows what's going to come out of your mouth before it comes out of your mouth. He's got it done. It's amazing what he does. And he makes me look like a fool. And I'll tell you what, it's either him or it's me. And I said, what do you mean, Beth? And he said, it means that either he stays or I stay. And I said, well, Beth, do you want me to mail you your check or shall I cut your check right now? Because obviously Brian won out. So she should have never put me in that corner. It turned out that she left and Brian became my personal assistant in the company. So he went from being a nothing job, when I say nothing job, I mean a low-level job, to being the second in command of a large company at that time. And he was so great that I decided that I wanted him to start traveling with me and being with me as often as he could, because I traveled constantly and he made my life that much easier on the road. So Brian traveled with me. We finished World Cup soccer. He went to Paris with me. He went all over the world with me. We went to Dubai, we went to Germany, we went to Japan. We went all over the world doing events. And after a year, we finished the job for World Cup. And I went to Brian and I said, Brian, I have a proposition for you. I would like to give you 49% of my company. And in return, what I want from you is I want to know that you will help me be the biggest event company there is in the next 5 years in the United States. And we shook hands on it. Well, Brian joined the company, obviously, as a partner, and he took it and was very happy with it. And we ended up, in the first 2 years that he was on board, we opened up 5 more companies. So we had 6 companies going. And we were working just perfect. Our gears meshed perfectly. And Brian was making a lot of money. And so was I. We were both making a lot of money. So he always worked as though he was the management, even when he wasn't. And when he became a manager, or not a manager, an owner, he worked even harder. Brian worked with me for about 5 years, and then he ended up leaving the company because he went in the entertainment industry, and he's an entertainer. And so because of that, I lost him, but I bought him out. And Brian became, overnight, by my buying him out of the 5 different companies, he became a pretty wealthy guy. And so then it came to the original John Daly Incorporated, where he owned 49%. I said, Brian, we have to figure out how much the company was worth before you joined and how much it's worth now, and I'm going to pay you 50% of that. He said, that's not necessary. He said, what we're going to do is we're going to forget that, because you gave me the greatest opportunity of a lifetime, and I'm not taking any money for that. Brian and I, to this day, are very, very close friends. He is like another son to me. And we're very, very close. He lives in Las Vegas. He's an entertainer, and he does very, very well. He's got a beautiful little girl, and he's a great guy. And we're still very close friends. But what I would like to hear from you, and I'd like you to go to your chat box now, is tell me something. I'm going to go to my chat box too. But I'd like you to tell me something that you got out of that story. What did you get out of that story? I'm trying to go to my chat. Can anybody speak? Can anybody talk while I'm trying to get into the chat? I don't know why I'm having a hard time doing this. Anybody got any clues?
John, this is Rosie.
Hi, Rosie.
How are you?
I'm great, honey. How are you?
Good. I just wanted to let you know that all I think Brian wanted was that one chance to prove that he can do the job. That you weren't looking for him, but he just landed there.
Yes, he just landed there, and he ended up doing an incredible job. But the thing that was really important was the fact that oh, here we go on the chat. Here we go. Okay. He not only, he stayed really in touch with me constantly, and he wasn't a bother. His perseverance was really something. His perseverance really, really paid off. And I'm seeing that Brian really wanted the job, so he humbled himself in order to work for your company. How much did you end up paying him for an hour after all? Really, there was never an hourly rate because he became an owner of the company. And so he was splitting, let me tell you that he ended up in the millions by the time we ended up cashing out.
Wow.
So he did very, very well. And I see from Rosie also that there's hardworking people that are all they are asking for is a chance, right? He made a very good first impression. To always be busy, always look busy, have sincere passion in every task you do. P.S. Your screen is going wonky. It sure did. Sorry about that. And Janie says the screen is black and she can only hear you. I'll go back to it in a second. Is there anyone else that has anything to say on this? Okay, I'm going to see if I can go back now to screen share. Hey, we did it. Can everybody see that now? Rosie, can you see it?
I could see it.
Oh,
Thank
good. Okay. So you want to be reliable. Being reliable means being on time. It means that if a boss asks you to do something, make sure that that gets done no matter what. Always deliver. Always over-deliver. Under-promise and over-deliver. And I know I mentioned this before, to stay off your mobile device during office hours and not stand still. All really important things. Whenever the boss is around, you want to make sure that you're moving, cleaning something. I don't care if you just clean the shelf that you're working on right now, clean it again, as long as your boss is watching. Not actually, you should be doing it all the time, not necessarily just when your boss is watching. We're going through this again. Sorry, guys. Oh, okay. Another thing that's very important is you need to leave home at home. If you had an argument in the morning with somebody in your household before you came into work, don't bring that into work. Don't bring the argument and your mood into work. And it's a very difficult thing to do a lot of times. And there financial difficulties at home? Very possibly there are, and financial difficulties for everybody. I know for myself, I think they're one of the worst kinds of difficulties other than health, because you don't know how you're going to get out of it, and it really brings you down. And it can cause a lot of family problems that you wouldn't normally have. You wouldn't normally have those family problems if you weren't financially strapped. and maybe you sleep well. Maybe you just had one of those nights that you didn't sleep well. When you go in the morning, if the first thing somebody says to you is, "How are you doing today?" and you say, "Oh, I'm really tired." You say that to your boss, and your boss is going to think, "Oh boy, what's going on here?" So this person's always tired. You want to be careful. Health problems, and then another one that is a big deal, a really big deal, is grief. Maybe you've had someone pass away in your family. Maybe somebody is passing away, especially with the virus going on around us now. We have to try and leave those things at home, though. It's not easy, but you have to do your best. Gossiping. Gossiping can be a really bad thing to do. It's not can be, it is a really bad thing to do. If someone shares a secret with you, that means they shared a secret with you. Don't spread that secret around. It can be very, very damaging. And has the boss held you in confidence? If the boss has told you something is going to be happening on such and such a date, and I'm very excited about it, you don't want to go out and tell the rest of the people that you work with that your boss told you this, just so you can feel as though you're better off than they are because you're closer to the boss. You have to be careful. And do you suspect any sexual harassment? That's a big thing nowadays. People, it's always been a big deal, but I think it's now people are finally coming out and talking about it. And that's something that you want to be very, very careful with. If you suspect sexual harassment, you should go to the Human Resources Department or HR department, and you should definitely discuss it, because that's a bad deal. But don't bring up something that is just gossip. So that's where gossip can get you in trouble. You've got to be so very careful about something like that, because you can really ruin a person. Ruin them, you ruin their reputation and everything else. It's a very bad thing. Sexual harassment is a very bad thing, but also the fact that ruining somebody's reputation and in that manner is extremely, extremely bad. Now, this is something that is going on a lot, and we see it a lot now. We've seen it a lot for a long time, but prejudice and racism, it's got to be kept under control. It's very, very bad. When you have to be careful about religion. I suggest that you don't talk about things like what I've listed on the side here, the religion and politics and race and gender, homophobia, cultural differences, stereotypes, social exclusion, etc. So just remember that we really all, maybe as far as religion is concerned, what somebody believes is what they believe. And 9 times out of 10, you're not going to change somebody's opinion of what it is that they believe. And it's not really up to you to do that, especially if it's with a work friend. If you're talking to a family member or a very close friend, Sometimes you could get into talks about religion, but if it gets to be heated, you have to be very careful. Today, it seems more so than ever before, ever in my lifetime that I can remember, politics have gotten to be really, really, really bad as far as people arguing over politics, because people have very, very strong opinions of what is right and what is wrong. So don't discuss politics. Race, whatever the race may be of different people that you're working with, just be careful what is said and how things are said. You have to be very careful that you're not making jokes. You have to be careful that you don't tease about it, about any kind of race, because it can be taken the wrong way, and that's a bad thing. Gender problems. There's a lot of people now, with women's rights, and women's rights are, it depends upon how you want to think about it, but as far as I'm concerned, I think that they have every right to have everything that men have. Everything is in the workplace, but a lot of people don't feel that way, and you have to be careful. You don't want to get into it. Homophobia, now, it doesn't matter who you love or why you love that person. I'm saying if you happen to be homophobic, that's up to you, but you want to keep that to yourself in the job place. Cultural differences. I know that there's been a lot of times with cultural differences that people will have problems with the community kitchens, that a lot of places have break rooms where people are cooking up things, putting things in the microwave, and they don't particularly like the food that other people are doing. You want to, is my connection unstable still, you guys? Rosie, is it bad? Rosie? I call on you only because I know that you, or okay, I'm just going to keep going. Stereotypes. You know, a lot of people will just think that people are all a stereotype, and they're not necessarily. That means that all people that are, for instance, all Black people are a certain way. That's simply not true. Or all Muslim people are not necessarily the same. Social exclusion, you don't want to knock somebody out of your group just because of you think that's what you should do. Stress management. This is a big deal, I believe. I always leave my desk for lunch. I never, or very, very seldom, do I ever have lunch at my desk or lunch while I am working. I stop and take some time, even if it's only 15. Move myself from my workplace, whether it's my desk or whether it's the job site that I'm on or whatever. I remove myself from there and I sit down and have my lunch quietly, and that really helps my stress management. Another thing that's happened, you guys see me drinking water all the time. You want to make sure that you're drinking lots of water throughout the day. That's very, very good for you. It's very healthy for you, and it helps your stress level. Meditation works for some people, or just take a few minutes of silence. Just if you need to walk outdoors, just all you need to do is excuse yourself, tell a co-worker that you're going to take a quick walk, and maybe just walk around the block and relieve yourself of all the stress that comes up. Of course, you don't want to do that at a crucial moment. And then the 24-hour rule. The 24-hour rule is a very interesting rule. If I receive an email from someone that has got me upset, I wait 24 hours before I answer that letter. I don't answer it right away. And the reason I don't is because I think that you see things very differently 24 hours later than you do right off the bat. And if you answer somebody and you're angry, that's only going to make things worse. So I abide by that 24-hour rule in my personal life, and also I abide by it in my work life, especially. Now, negotiating your work schedule, we talked a little bit about this in the very beginning. Explain your personal time, such as going to school, picking up the kids, or doctor appointments. Explain that to your boss or your manager, whoever that person is. But don't hit them up with it the day before and say, oh, by the way, tomorrow I have a 12 o'clock dentist appointment to have my teeth cleaned. You had that appointment a long time ago. Let them know that you had it or let them know when you make the appointment. And say, I have an appointment on the 17th to have my teeth cleaned. Is that going to be a good day? Also, if you have a vacation planned, definitely you want to make sure that you have let people know that you have got a vacation planned, and that you would like to keep that vacation if possible. Conflict resolution. Remember, you guys, the boss is the boss. And a lot of times you can not necessarily agree with what the boss says, but you have to be careful on the way you bring it up and you talk about it. If you don't want to go in and say to the boss, I think you're wrong. I think you could go to the boss and say, would you be willing to discuss this with me? Because I think that there might be a better way that we could go about doing this particular thing. That's a difficult conversation. And it's hard to have difficult conversations with your boss or with anybody for that matter. Even a coworker, it's hard to have a difficult conversation with them. Always remain calm. And that's where that 24-hour rule comes in. If somebody said something to you that upset you, wait 24 hours before you address it, because you will find that you're going to be much more calm. And whenever you're talking to someone, allow that person to finish their thought. Don't jump in and talk over their thought. And remember, there are always three sides to every story. There's your side, there's her side, and there's the truth. And everybody sees it differently. So it depends. So what you need to do is you need to really listen to what people have to say. So what we've done is we've talked about time ethics and time management, work values and ethics, stress management, and negotiating work schedules, and conflict resolutions. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the, here we go. I've got everybody, I've got you on the chat mode. So if anyone has any questions, please go onto the chat mode. And I haven't seen anything since Brian, but if there's anyone that has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. It's been a lot of fun working with all of you. I hope that you've gotten something, even if you've gotten a morsel out of this conversation, out of this class today, that's wonderful. So, anybody have any questions? Any comments? Does anybody have any comments? This is open now. Now is your turn to talk. Okay. Well, I thank you all very much. And Rosie, thank you for keeping me on. I'll ask you to unmute. Oh.
Hi, John. I just wanted to say thank you for teaching us all that you have taught us, and that I have learned a lot from your classes.
Well,
I enjoy your classes.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. It was really nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you too.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.